Good afternoon and welcome to this agenda review meeting of the Nacogdoches Independent School District Board of Trustees. Let a record show that a quorum of board members is present and that notice of this meeting has been legally posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act. I would like to remind everyone that all items on the agenda today are for discussion only. No action will be taken today. Please join us in turning your cell phones to the silent mode. First item on our agenda today is public comment. We did not receive any requests to address the board as outlined in our meeting notice. That will take us to item 3, agenda review of the consent agenda. First item being board meeting minutes. Are there any comments, corrections, or questions regarding the November minutes? Hearing none, we'll move straight into business office reports. Mrs. Barber.
Good afternoon, President Fitch, board members, Dr. Trujillo. I'd like to begin with our budget amendments, which you will find them on page 18. Our first budget amendment is pulling funds from fund balance to pay for the vaccine payment that was given to our staff. The cost was approximately $396,800. I am only pulling $155,800 because I believe functions 11, 13, and 32 have sufficient funds to cover it. But I put a note in there that in the future I may, if that proves to be false, I may be bringing that back to the board. But as of right now, I believe that there is enough funds in there to cover those functions. Budget Amendment B, move funds to general administration from instruction to pay for the board redistricting contract, $28,110. Item C, transfer funds to move budget for the band clerk who is now serving as clerk for all fine arts. So we're moving her from function 11 to function 21. Item D, move funds between campus leadership and professional development for TJR. Item E, budget funds received from donations. So we're increasing our function 36 by $18,426 and increasing revenue by $18,426. And I'll be bringing those donations to you later. Any questions on the budget amendments? All right. Next, I'd like to go to the investment report, which is on page 23 and 24, 25. Feel like I'm a broken record here. Our investments continue to not do very well due to the worldwide economy. Any questions on the investments?
I need to learn something. When you do a certificate of deposit and you take money out, then they have a fee for that? It shows $514.50 in parentheses. That means the negative, right?
Let me look and see where you are.
That's on page 24.
Okay, that could be that I may have to get back to you on that one, but that could be due to the economy that it did not do as well as expected.
Okay, so
But
it's
I can get you a
possible
better
negative
answer.
earnings. Okay,
Yes,
okay.
yes.
I'm just trying to figure out what.
It should not be a fee.
Okay.
It says income earned.
But it's a negative.
Negative.
And then on page 90, are gifts and donations. Athletics received a donation of $5,825.64 from Pilgrim's Pride for the boys soccer team supplies. And then the Athletic Booster Club for a total of $12,599.17. That was received, but in detail, the funds came from the Swimming Booster Club of $3,311.50. For the Soccer Booster Club, $2,162.25. Another one from the Swimming Booster Club, $1,939. And again, for the Soccer Booster Club, $5,186.42. Any questions on donations?
I want to thank everybody that participates in this. Pilgrim's Pride is not the only commercial entity that's giving to our Dragons, but the other thing that's very strong is we have strong booster clubs, and we appreciate these booster clubs. Our freshman soccer team, first time out, the ninth graders, they went against the JV and they beat I believe it was Henderson 4-0. So we got some good offense and some good defense in the ninth grade, the new first ever ninth grade team playing for us, and they're supported by this money, and that helps them in staying in school and in their excellence in education. We appreciate that.
And then I will entertain any questions you have on any other of my many reports.
Are there any questions on the business office reports? All right. Let's see, hearing none, she hit, because we talked about item C, the gifts and donations as well, so that will carry us all the way down to item D, purchases over $25,000. Thomas Bus, Texas, Mr. Martin.
Good afternoon, President Fitch, members of the board, Dr. Hayo. Administration is requesting purchasing one school bus from Thomas Bus, Texas, a 2023 36-passenger special needs route bus with seat belts for the amount of $122,575,000. The funds for this purchase will come out of budgeted funds for the Transportation Department. Be happy to answer any questions the board may have on this request.
My question is just the one we presently have, what will happen to that bus? Or did we have a bus for that?
Yes, sir. We have several bus for special
But the one
needs.
that is it replacing a bus?
No, sir.
Okay.
No, sir. This is in addition
It's just
to.
an additional?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Glad to see it has seat belts.
Sir?
Glad to see it has
yes, sir.
seat belts.
So I'm going to ask, this was a planned purchase then? You're saying it's coming from budgeted funds, so this has been a planned purchase?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
So, Mr. Lampkin, this is going to keep us up to date for safety for our children, and having this new bus in our rotation when things, get crazy and something breaks down?
Yes, sir.
So how many total buses do we have? And they're big and small, like put them in categories. We have one small and four big, or how many?
As far as spares, is what you asked?
For the special services kids, special needs kids.
On the special need bus?
I'm gonna pause for just one moment. Can the folks seeing us live hear him?
No, ma'am.
All right.
I can bring the microphone to you.
Yes, please do. One moment, Mr. Lampkin. We want to make sure that those joining us via the virtual meeting have the opportunity to hear the answer.
Seeing the buses all over the place, all times of day and night, we appreciate what you're doing, Mr. Lampkin.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, we run 8 special need routes right now as it is. We're purchasing this bus in order to go with the fleet, add an extension to this fleet, because we only have one sped bus, one backup bus, and it's a smaller version. Right now, we're transporting more special need kids than we ever have since I've been here. All 7 routes have wheelchairs. So it's very much a need that we increase our capacity of buses that we transport with the kids. So this would be a 36, 38, actually it's a 46 passenger bus, but by the time you take out for wheelchairs, we go down to right at 36, 37 kids. That's what we'll be able to transport on it.
Mr. Lampkin, do you have a number more or less of how many special needs students are transported daily?
No, sir, not right off I don't.
Okay. And you say you run 8 routes a day for special needs kids?
Yes, sir.
And if it's, and not that numbers don't matter, but if it's one student that's identified.
Right.
Then we're transporting that one student. So we want to make sure that the community knows that it's a priority for all of our kids, that we're looking at it. One of the things that in anticipation to have this, it's better to go ahead and purchase it as it's scheduled to be purchased. Mr. Martin, do you know, what is the value? The last time we bought a special education bus was what year?
It was actually purchased in 2019. The board approved, purchased in 2020 was the bus that we got, and the board approved it back in 2018. So between then and now, the same bus, the price has gone up about 14%.
That's why we're looking at the process to figure out, as we move forward, we stay in line with what our commitment was with the schedule. It's real easy to say, well, let's postpone it, not do it this year. Well, the increase is coming up, so we want to make sure we take advantage, and I appreciate Mr. Martin for the details for the board so that the public knows that we're being fully transparent with the cost and what it was when we purchased the first one. And there are a number of reasons for those costs to go up. Some of those are seatbelts, all the new technologies and all the things that are there. Right, Mr. Lampkin?
Yes, sir, it is, and COVID has a big bearing on it also, and the cost of raw materials has gone up tremendously. Looking at it, cost of raw materials right now alone was right at $10,000.
Hey, Mr. Martin brings up an interesting question. The last time we ordered a bus, it was about 2 years on delivery. Are we expecting the same this time? Or what's our estimated delivery date?
Well, it's not really what you say 2 years. It's that when we went through the process, it was right in the middle of 1 year. And in September, everything rolls over. So that's the reason it became in as a 2020 bus. With this one, it'll be rated as a 2023, with everything going well, approved today. Everything will go out, starting January 1. If everything goes well, we'll have the bus when school starts in August.
Okay, excellent.
Mr. Martin, I had a question. This bus is going to come with smart tag and some kind of a recording device with DVD so we're going to meet every requirement that's necessary to transport special needs students in the most safe manner we can in a nice Cumming diesel, right? That'll last for a long time.
Yes, sir, Dr. Gorman, that is correct. It will come fully loaded with the same amenities as the rest of our buses, with the addition of a special needs ramp and things of that nature that are special to our kids.
I think it's
That will be transported.
indicated on page 101, on the bottom, page 101.
Couple of things that we'll have to do, though, is smart tag is not something that's automatically equipped on the buses. That's an initiative that Nacogdoches has. So once the arrival bus comes in, then Mr. Lampkins and staff will equip it with whatever tools we put on the buses for Nacogdoches, which smart tag would be something that we would add to the fleet of any buses or any vehicles that come in, because it is an initiative for Nacogdoches.
Would that be an added expense, or do we have it available?
How many did we have the potential for additions with smart tag?
I think here, I'm reading, it says dealer adds on.
Yes, let me rephrase that, okay?
Yeah.
With the buses as we purchase them, going forward, what I've done is, whatever our buses already have on them, when we put it in the bid package to buy it, I buy it ready. When it hits our yard,
It's good to go.
it's ready to go to work.
There you go.
Radio, smart tag, everything is on it. So if it lands on Thursday afternoon and we have a bus go down Thursday afternoon, that bus can go to work Friday morning.
Okay, good.
Good to go.
That's a good deal.
Good job.
I'm going to ask one more question. I'm sorry, I know we've talked a lot about school buses here, but just, I'm always kind of looking at it from a budget standpoint. And I know in the past, it took us a long time to kind of get the buses we need and update our fleet. Do we have any additional buses that we'll be purchasing this year to keep a rotation going, or is this the only purchase scheduled for the year?
To my knowledge, this is the only purchase of school buses that is scheduled for this school year.
Okay. Thank you. Any additional questions?
Just out of curiosity, since we'll be removing seats, is there a way we might could get a discount for the seats that we won't be using?
You want to take that one?
With removing the seats, no, because what happens is, it may be this year that bus may have 3 wheelchairs. So what we'll do is, the next school year, we may only need 1 wheelchair.
Okay.
So we can put those seats back in. They're designed where they can come in and out.
Okay, great.
Good to know.
And I might point a clarification to Ms. Finch's question with regards, is this the only bus? I'm going to say probably, we don't want to say no. There's a number of reasons we may have to come back. We know that the Dragon fleet, we have one of those buses is older than the rest. And remember, if you've gone to any event, those buses stay running from the minute they leave the yard, and they run the whole time they're at the location. That's the way they've been designed. So not that we're going to come back with another black bus. Another one that's been pretty popular and is the Little Dragon. The Little Dragon, we can't even keep that sucker there. It's going. And so there is a possibility that the board may come back, we may come back to the board to entertain some additional to the fleet. The other thing is, we have a bus that goes down for any reason, and we have to replace that bus. There's obviously those that are there. But I didn't want to leave an absolute, because we've had conversations about the Little Dragon and how popular that was. We didn't anticipate it to be as popular as it is, and we have a lot of CTE programming. We have small groups and competition, and we don't have to load up that big black Dragon and take a small group down there. And the other thing is a licensure. We can have a person with a regular driver's license drive the Little Dragon, which means some of our coaches can take the folks, and we're not out the cost of taking one of the drivers out of the rotation that we're needing to do. So just wanted to put that up. I didn't want an absolute with that one, Ms. Finch, and because I saw a little cringe from Mr. Lampkins, and so I wanted to make sure to leave that possibility there.
Speaking of that Little Dragon.
Yes.
Do we have an idea of how many miles we're putting on in a month?
I can't really say. I know it has been gone, it's gone pretty much every Saturday. It has been out. Basketball has been on it throughout the tournament season. I really can't give you the miles, but like I said, it's never there. I pulled out the gate today and I was like, it's sitting here today. But I mean, we're getting ready for that Christmas break, so a lot of things are not going on. But the average week of that bus, it's never there.
Well, I'm curious because if we're putting a lot of miles on it and the maintenance, of course, is going to go up if you're utilizing it regularly, and it's going to be needing to be replaced. So I'm wondering if we could get...
We might ask Mr. Lampkin to get that information and pass it along to Holly to get out to the board prior to Thursday's meeting.
I think most of it has to do with the season of sports or seasonal activities, other than that.
golf, swim, all the smaller seasonal sports use it, and as they grow, we have
As they grow, we have to go back to the larger
Thank you,
size
Chief.
bus. I'm sorry, y'all.
Oh, you're good. You're good.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Thank you, Ms. Luckey.
Thank you all. Good discussion. We're going to move then to letter E on our agenda, letter of commitment to participate in the Region 5 ESC Food Service Co-op for the 2022-2023 school year. Mrs. Barber.
This is an annual agreement we bring to you. We participate in Region 5's purchasing co-op, which Ms. Thacker is very heavily involved in the administration, is that what you would call it? The administration of, with other schools, of running this co-op and participating in the bids and tasting food and just making sure that our students are well taken care of as far as their lunches and breakfasts.
Wonderful. Any questions on this item? Mrs. Thacker, I'd be remiss if I did not, again, let you know how much we appreciate your leadership. I know several vendors that I know just on a personal basis that tell me whatever Robin does, everybody else in the region follows because they value and trust your leadership, and we're mighty thankful to have you at Nacogdoches ISD. All right.
I'd just like to echo that because, you know, when I was a social worker with the district, it was so difficult to get our kids fed that didn't have the money to pay for the food. And again, I want to just tell you thank you for thinking about our kids and getting them fed, and they don't have to worry about having to pay to eat. So that's very, very much appreciated.
All right, we're going to move to item F, federally funded professional development vendors. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, President Fitch, board members, Superintendent Trujillo. We talked about this back in August, where we brought to you a larger list of federal vendors we would like to use for professional development or potentially use. We keep this open quarterly, so on the action sheet, I included some narrative actually from the RFP on our business office purchasing website that basically says that additional RFP responses will be reviewed on a quarterly basis. That our first quarter ended on October the 27th, so we're bringing you this particular vendor by the name of Steinhaus Publishers. So I will see if you guys entertain any questions you may have.
So was this, did they just approach us wanting to get on this vendor list, or do we have a specific campus that's wanting to utilize their PD?
Great question, and thank you very much. It was we use some of their instructional resources to supplement Fontes and Pinnell, which is called Patterns of Power, or Power, make sure I say it correct, Patterns of Power, that was correct. And so, yes, ma'am, the curriculum assistant principals reached out to us and asked us if we would reach out to them.
That's
So, yes, ma'am.
wonderful.
Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments on this item? Hearing none, we're going to move to item G, which is the second reading of the TASB policy update. Mr. Martin, any additional notes here? I know this is a second reading, so.
No additional notes.
No changes?
Madam President.
All right. Does the board members, I know you've had additional time now to continue review this. For the public, when we get these policy updates, and this one's no different, several times they can be hundreds of pages long. So it's always nice that we've got both first and second reading to really give us time to digest this. So I want to be sure to open it up, and if there are any questions that have arisen since our last meeting on this.
Madam President, I have looked at pretty detail on one section, which was page 103, I'm sorry, 1003, and 1004, and 1005. It's basically related to extracurricular activities, and students who are not district students or homebound, they can participate. I'd like to know if all the district coaches or athletic director departments, even though I know the UIL informed those coaches. However, I think it's a good idea to each coach have a copy of those, and maybe in the future, when the superintendent and athletic director meets in the district executive committees, bring this app to make sure everybody is informed and they know which school brings outside players within their teams. So in other words, everybody is be aware of how the district as a whole works.
Any comments?
Were you referencing homebound or home?
Students who are, for example, if students
Homeschool.
are living in Nacogdoches district, however, is not registered with NISD, their parents teach him at home. He can't participate.
He can or can't?
Can, in other words, said district has to make sure these are authorized. And on page, for example, I underlined a public school that participates in a public school that participates in activity is sponsored by UIL may provide a non-enrolled students who otherwise meets UIL eligibility standards to represent that school in the UIL activities, with the opportunity to participate in activity on behalf of the school in the same manner that the school provides the opportunity to participate to the students enrolled in the school. Non-enrolled students means a student who receives instruction as at homeschooled, I'm sorry. The students as described by Education Code 29.916A1 from the non-public school. Then it says CEK. There's a lot of details in it that is, I like to make sure all our school within the district inform of all the details of it.
Absolutely. Let me clarify something though, Coach.
Yes.
May and shall.
Shall.
May means we may provide that. Nacogdoches ISD
May not.
is not allowing students that are not enrolled in the school system to participate in UIL events. I want to make sure that's clear. That it's undefined because I don't know, it'll cost us units as far as teaching units and all of that. So the state gives us the option
Right.
to participate whenever they say they may provide that. So we do not, if you're not an enrolled student in Nacogdoches ISD, then you will not be able to participate in UIL events. You will need to enroll and become a full-time student either at Nacogdoches High School or the middle school. So we do not allow that. Now, it's a difference whenever the state uses shall and may.
Right.
And if a district is allowing it, then we have to have that obligation to make sure we're communicating with everybody with that. So that was a dialogue that I've had with some of our regional superintendents, as well as with TAS and TASB, with the direction that we're going. That's why I was asking for points of clarification on that question, because I want to make sure it's clear, we do not allow students that are not enrolled in Nacogdoches to participate in any UIL event.
I was well aware of that.
Yeah.
However, I was concerned about knowing how the other district within our district, school district within our athletic districts handle those. So our people will be aware of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's a lot of technicality. I can make about 15, 16 different possibilities. But as a former athletic director, when I participated in executive meetings, there is so many vagues that we have to clarify, spend hours and hours explaining and rebuttaling and so on. It needs to be clarified which school allow, which school doesn't allow.
I understand what you're saying,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
So that would be, I guess that would come down through the athletic director then at one of those meetings to kind of discuss and define who is and who is not, what districts are.
My only concern is Nacogdoches ISD.
Yes.
As far as what we do here. Surrounding districts, they may provide it.
Right.
But when it here in Nacogdoches, our athletic director communicates that with our athletic departments to make sure, and also our principals, because principals are dealing with parents that are coming in and wanting to know if they can. So we make sure that that communication is out there. I fully understand with what you're saying, Coach.
I think this is really good because it become more transparent for me, and if it's like for me, and I know a lot about this stuff, then it's got to be good for our community and our supporters, our stakeholders. So thanks so much for what you're doing and talking about this, Coach, and your explanation, Dr. Trujillo. I think it's really helpful for me and for others.
Well, everybody knows there's a lot of schools, they want to win regardless of what, so they allow those.
Yeah.
And it's unfair for the rest of us who don't know, or who don't do it.
Any other comments or questions on the policy update?
Would that put us at a disadvantage?
Coach, it does. It
could.
does, you know,
It could, in a number of reasons, is the fact that you have students that are bouncing around, finding school systems and going from one district to the other. But the quality of education that we're saying that we have and we provide to our community, it speaks volumes. I mean, we're really picking up some top athletes even by doing this. We have a pretty amazing baseball program. The soccer is growing. We've got freshmen now coming in, 2 young men, one signed to Ole Miss and the other one's coming here to SFA. So we're building the program, and we want folks to understand that the athletic program that we have and our fine arts program is what entices our kids, but the academics is we're building that with solid ground. So yeah, unfortunately, Reverend, to your point, it does, and coming from the Metroplex, it bounces around. That's why UIL is always chasing, figuring out which kids moved and where your residence is at. Mr. Tarbin's in here. We've got our folks that check residency of our folks, and even our coaches are checking out. If we have one of our athletes that decide all of a sudden they're not going to go to school here and they're going down to a neighboring school, we follow up with our UIL rules to make sure that that's all there. The biggest thing with this is the legislation this year came in heavy on charter and private schools participating in schools and giving us the option to say you can or cannot allow the students to do this. The rationale is I don't know how many coaching staffs we would have, and it would fluctuate so much that we might be having to, we might be overstaffed where we don't have the support that's there. So, but to your point, it has the potential, especially if you got a really top athlete that's out there in the community and they're involved in AAU ball and those kinds of things. But we want to make sure that for Nacogdoches and all the students that come in and commit themselves to the daily commitment to Nacogdoches, we want to let our families know, come be part of Nacogdoches ISD, the greatest school district in East Texas, if I can say that. So we're on our way, we're climbing up, so.
I subscribe to your thoughts.
Yes.
And personally, as a former athletic director, I do not like to go that direction because there is so many different things you have to consider. Hours of practice, participation, team unity, things of that nature, or maybe decided in the middle of the season, decided not to come. Withdraw. So I don't believe any athletic director likes to go that direction. I really mean it.
Any additional comments or questions?
Well, my mind went to Etal and Walton and
Yeah.
Martinsville.
Yes.
You know, they don't have football programs. It's a bunch of studs out there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
Come enroll in Nacogdoches ISD.
Amen.
Open enrollment.
That's right.
glad to have them.
There you go. All right, the next item on our consent agenda is, tongue twisted, item H, consideration of exhibits for local policy DFE, termination of employment resignation. Mr. Martin.
Thank you, Madam President. Last month, during the first reading of Update 118, I mentioned to the board that there would be resolutions to come. On page 1138, you will see one resolution there. The resolutions come as a result of two commissioners' decisions made by two different commissioners in 2 years. The administration has consulted with the board's TASB policy specialist, Kathy London, about these two resolutions, and administration is recommending that the board adopt both of the resolutions. The difference between the resolutions, and I'll call them Exhibit A and Exhibit B. Exhibit A is a resolution that the board is delegating authority to accept a contract employee's resignation effective before the end of the school year. What that does is allow, the superintendent already has the authority by board policy to accept the resignation. The board, what we're asking is that the board also delegate another or two other positions to be able to accept a resignation during the school year. That's Exhibit A. Exhibit B is basically any other time, which includes a contract employee submitting their resignation to be effective at the end of the school year or to be effective prior to the 45th day of the first day of instruction. So it was the advice of our TASB representative in talking to her and also in asking what other districts are doing to ask the board to adopt both resolutions, giving authority to the Executive Director of Human Resources as well as the Director of Human Resources to accept resignations as well as the superintendent. Be happy to answer any questions you all may have.
Do you know what prompted this?
Yes, in the explanatory notes, page 126 in your board book, the revisions, what's happening with board policy is what you remember we talked about the superintendent may designate a designee. So now what's happened is the legislature says, no, superintendent can't designate a designee for certain things. The board has to designate. And that's what's happening in this case.
Well, in the short of it is the board has designated the superintendent. And because the board has designated the superintendent, then it makes sense that the board would designate anybody else that would do that. It would be kind of crazy to say, hey, we're giving the designation to the superintendent, and then the superintendent turn around and say, well, I'm designating some of these other people to do it as well.
Right.
So if the responsibility falls on the board to do that, then they have that responsibility for both of those. And we're pointing that in the direction of, and I don't want to take your thunder with this because you're going to go on and talk to it a little bit more. There's a designee that we're recommending that it naturally fits in the wheelhouse of their responsibilities when they do that. So that's kind of add to what Mr. Martin has shared, mostly because the board has designated that, and it doesn't make any sense for the superintendent to, okay, thank you, board, then they assign somebody else.
Okay.
At East Texas Baptist, where I'm in my 16th year as trustee, we regularly do this to take the responsibility from the president, and we assign who it goes to under his I think this is work, and that's kind of what we're doing here. We think this works better, it fits together like the jigsaw, and so I think that with the complexity of the government changing things all the time, we have to level the playing field for the person at the top to let some of that responsibility go to the proper area, like you're saying. And this fits right in HR.
Okay, at the expense of sounding stupid, let me just clarify. Resolutions have been added, and as a result, we need, as a board, to designate other designees to accept these resignations, these two different kinds, and you are presenting to us that we appoint Executive Director of Human Resource and the Director of Human Resources.
Yes, ma'am,
Okay,
that is
great.
correct.
And that
Okay.
makes perfect sense. I mean,
It does, it does.
It's a continuity, I think it works
They're
very
the
well.
logical one.
I may like to propose one minor change to these policies, both of these, both Exhibit A and Exhibit B. while we as a board are designating the ability to receive these resignations, particularly the, say within the contract period resignations, I would really like to see it in the policy where it's also stipulated, though, that within, the board is notified at the next regular board meeting of any resignations that are received. As it's written right now, we could be kind of out of the loop. And I think right now, from what I'm reading and hearing from media across the state, is there is a large challenge with teachers resigning mid-year. And if we started seeing that in Nacogdoches, I do think it's important that we're kind of looped in and that we can at least see that and know if there's a trend or if there's something out there happening. So that'd be just my proposal, that we kind of just add that in there, that, once these resignations are received, absolutely, they can be received and executed, but the board will be notified of all of those, at the next regular board meeting.
We'll check with TASB. This meets the letter of the law for what they need, but we may have to come back with another
Right. I think it'd be under
resolution with that,
local,
so,
right.
yeah.
But I did look, it looked like this was local policy, is why I think that would give us the ability to do that, but, yeah. But I'm not, the way it's formatted a little different, so I'm not 100%.
And it would be basically information item, not an
Yeah.
action item that the board would be actually
No,
looking at, so it's-
it could be included in the report, how we get the business office reports now, it could be, another page within those administrative reports, but that at least that information is coming full circle, because I think what the state is telling us here is, you've got a responsibility here, so much so that yes, you can delegate this authority, but you need to not only delegate it to the superintendent, you've got to pick the second and third. So they're wanting us to take this responsibility seriously, Food for thought.
Oh, wait,
Yes, no, go ahead.
I really agree with that. So how do we handle that? Do we handle that as another motion to add to this? Or do you need to look
Well,
into it and find out how we do it?
I think what Dr. Trujillo is saying is give them time to look into it first. My hope would be that they would be able to adapt these resolutions.
But
so
if
that
not,
when
it
we-
may be something additional.
Yeah, so that
Okay.
when we voted on Thursday, it would be all.
But we
done
would
in
know
one.
by Thursday before we vote on it. Fine.
Sounds like it. Is that reasonable?
We would do our best to get
Okay.
them to give us the details. The one thing that we'd have to navigate is an information item that we're looking at, because those have already occurred. Whenever this is happening, the resignations have already been
Right,
received,
right,
and we're
yeah.
moving forward. And that obviously has already been granted to the superintendent.
Yes.
But this allows this other. I will tell you, part of the movement also is that you've had a record numbers of resignations from the classrooms to administration to superintendents. And if the authority was only given to the superintendent, and the superintendent is no longer there, then who is doing this on behalf of the board? So it's kind of a safety measure as well, so that the daily operations of a school district can still continue to move forward, because we can't move forward with a resignation or a hire until we've accepted a resignation, which means we have to post for 10 days. So by not doing this, we can't expedite bringing the highly qualified people back on to the docket. But to short to what you're saying is we
And I
can
agree
get
with that.
it.
And when I first joined this board, that rested with this board, and we actually accepted those resignations as well as
The hires.
the hiring.
Yeah.
And we've delegated that authority to the superintendent, which I think is absolutely appropriate, but I don't think that means that, I still think we have a responsibility
Absolutely.
to keep ourselves informed on those topics.
Not only that, Madam President, there are times that somebody is resigned and gone, and I'm totally unaware of, and I still think that person still is our employee. And those names doesn't have to be public, however, it's privately, we may be able to know. I guess that's where that
Well, it sounds like we could go ahead and vote and move on these the way
Yes,
they
these-
are, and that what we're wanting, you're saying, is a separate informational thing.
Yes, this is
Okay.
something that I need to work with the team, kind of like what we do with the business report and some of the, it would be something from the HR department that would give us some
Right, okay.
information so that the board can stay abreast as to what's occurring. Because you're absolutely correct, you need to know, is there a trend of folks that we're losing? And what are we doing to initiate the acquisition of these folks?
I'd be more comfortable that being in policy, and this is why. It's just, when it's in policy, it's there, it's a standing thing, and it can't disappear. Yeah,
Yeah.
thank you, Leah Beth.
Yeah, this is one that we would have to check because it treads too close to whether does the superintendent have the authority or does the board have the authority. Information to the board is obviously something that needs to happen, but we've got to tread to figure out, okay,
It's all
how can
how
the
you word it.
language,
Yeah, just word
how do
the
you
language
language this so it doesn't take the authority back from the superintendent and then it's find its way back to the board. We could navigate that, but in the case of this exhibit, so we move forward, this addresses the legalities for assigning an individual that can receive the resignations. And then I'll work with the team to see, okay, what does that look like? How does it set in policy? How can we arrive with something that can inform the board what's going on with the HR? And it can be as simple as a report that comes from HR. And you're able to look at that as well. Absolutely.
Ms. Fitch, were you asking for your suggestion or recommendation to be attached to this particular
Yeah,
policy?
basically add a sentence in that resolution
Right.
that says we're delegating the authority to receive
Right.
and execute the resignation. And then the second sentence after that, being something along the lines, the Board of Trustees would be informed of all such actions at the next regular meeting.
And we
Well,
can
if that's the
take that
case,
question.
then we would probably want to move this item from consent to discussion if we're going to ask for the attachment to be attached to
Good
it.
point.
Good
Well, I
point.
think we definitely need to have another conversation if we're going to come back with finding out if it should be added or if it should be a separate thing.
Right.
So I agree, I think we should move it from consent.
Let me ask a question right quick. Mrs. Martin, is this, I know we're doing a lot of these things because we have a calendar date to get things set in policy. This isn't one of those items that has to be done at this point. So we can actually pull this item and review it, discuss it, figure out what we need to do and move it into a future meeting?
Yes, sir, as far as, yes.
Okay.
And also, as you mentioned, give us an opportunity to talk with our policy consultant.
I would
See
feel
how we
much
could do that.
more comfortable doing that
Sounds good.
for the board than the promise that we'll have something Thursday. Is just say, let's pull it, let's take, and that way I can fully understand as well. And as we draft it, and then we'll work with our TASB folks to see what we can come up with, and then we'll bring it back to the board in January. Would
Sounds
sound good?
great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you for that, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Right. We will now proceed with items from the action portion of our agenda under item 4A, consideration of annual school district audit for fiscal year 2020-2021. Mrs. Barbrick.
Well, 'tis the season for the financial statement presentation. So Darla Deer with Belt Harrison Pahacek, hope I said that right, will be presenting this draft financial statement to you. We will be bringing the final statement on Thursday.
Wonderful. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you. And I'm Darla Deer with Belt Harris Pahacek. Great job on the pronunciation.
Yeah.
So first, thank you for the opportunity to come in and present the audit. I'll basically go over about the three most important pages out of the audit, but I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have. So if you'll flip with me to page 11, I think those draft reports are in front of you. This is our opinion page. You've received an unmodified opinion. That is the highest level of assurance that you can receive. that there are no material misstatements, and all your disclosures according to general accepted accounting principles have been presented in your audit. So great job on that.
Can I ask a question about misstatements? Can you describe what you consider a misstatement?
Well, each audit that we have, based on the assets that the school district has, we have a material amount that we look at. And so whether your cash would be off or whether capital assets are off, we look at each one of those and we look to see whether, if they are out of balance, whether they would be material to your, to any of your balance sheet accounts or any of the statements that we're presenting in the audit. And then we would come back, and if they were material, then that would probably change the opinion that we would have in the audit. Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm going to flip you over to page 32 and 33. We'll look at your revenue and expenditure page and then look at fund balance, which I know that is the one that everybody likes to look at, is see what that fund balance is at the end of the fiscal year. So looking at your general fund column, that is the column 10, you'll see that total revenues for the year were $54,800,537. Looking down at your total expenditures, and that is going to be on line item 6030. You'll see total expenditure for the year, $54,555,519. That leaving you the excess of your revenues over expenditures of $245,018. You'll see you had a transfer in and some sale of some property, giving you that total other financing sources of $395,922, leaving you a net change in your fund balance of a positive $640,940, bringing that ending fund balance to $34,728,342. So a nice little increase to your fund balance there. So good job on that. The other thing that I'll note on this page is over on page 33 on the capital projects fund. Coming down, you'll see that you had in your capital outlay, you've got quite a bit of capital improvements going on. So you'll see that that is $37,947,278 in that capital outlay, showing that those improvements going on in your district. So I just wanted to point that number out. That nice little addition there on your capital improvements. All right, I'm going to flip you back to your budget page, which is on page 74 and 75. One of the things that we do when we come into the audit is we look at the budget and we look at those expenditures, and we want to make sure that those expenditures have not exceeded the authority of that budget. So you'll notice that when you're looking at the variance column, that's the far right-hand column, on those expenditures, we're comparing the final budget to your actual numbers. You'll notice that all your numbers are positive, which means that they came in above the budget, that we didn't have anything that was in excess of your appropriations. So great job on that part. Now, those are about the three most important areas of your audit, but I'll be happy to talk about anything that you have questions about.
Back here.
While people are looking, I just want to take this opportunity to thank the CFO, Lisa Barbary, because every number, every positive and negative thing, she did perfectly, and we appreciate her so much.
And I know that our team working with her, that we could not do this without all the information that she provides us. So yes, thank you.
And just to kind of wrap it up clearly as I'm looking at this, just to say there are no findings that you have provided to us. I'm digging here, but I haven't seen anything.
On the
Audit, any audit findings?
The
Yes.
management letter comment, I'm not sure if the management letter comments were included with this draft.
Okay.
They are in the back? Yes. If you'll flip to the back.
Okay. I think I just put my hands on it, I think. Yep.
And all of these are other matters. They were not a significant deficiency or material misstatements, anything like that.
So part of your audit, when you do this audit and you find a discrepancy or something, you sit down with our CEO and you talk to them about how they can take corrective action so that this doesn't occur again, or?
Yes.
How do you, okay.
Yes. If we find anything in any of the audits that we do, we'll work with the team trying to take care of the discrepancy to see if we can reconcile what that amount is, and but we'll work with everybody.
So I can assume that we got an A+ then?
Very good.
Thank you, Lisa.
All right. Thank you very much. Any additional questions? All right. Thank you so much for your job, Lisa. Appreciate that. I know we'll be receiving the final version before Thursday's meeting. We would not anticipate any substantial changes, I would assume.
Nothing substantial.
So how would the board feel about moving this to consent agenda? Any opposition to that?
I don't.
All right, let's move that to consent agenda, please. Next item is consideration of Mike Moses campus renovation project. Mr. Martin.
President Fitch, members of the board, Dr. Trujillo, while the team is coming up, I'll go ahead and just summarize this particular item on the agenda. On December the 12th, 2021, the district accepted bid proposals for Mike Moses renovations, Phase 2 of the project. The results of the bids are attached for your reference. Administration is recommending to award the project to TCMC contractors outlined in the letter that you will see on page 1294 of your board book from Curtis Architecture. The total amount for the project is $2,202,077. I will inform the board that once all of our Moses projects are totaled up and the savings applied, that there is a deficit of $215,000, which we plan to cover with ESSER funds. We'll be happy to answer any questions the board may have regarding the Moses renovation project.
Michael, can you add TCMC, let them know who that is?
Yes, sir. TCMC, we've contracted with them a couple of times before. They did our transportation center as well as the district support center.
Where are they located? Headquartered?
Tyler.
And so we're using ESSER funds to complete these projects. Did I hear that correct?
To offset the deficit of $215,000.
To offset the deficit?
Yes, sir.
I'll say, I've been very nervous about what this bid was, because, with the inflation that we have seen, I've been very nervous about what these numbers were going to come back to, and actually to see $215,000, there's a bit of a relief to me, I have to say. I know, right?
President Finch, I will tell you, and Ralph can speak to this, and also Army, that there are some things that overall we were going to say that needed to be done, but with their infinite wisdom to keep the number down, we're not getting it done. For instance, the grid system in the building, they've evaluated and said it's a good grid system, we can go in there and do some repairs. But some of that would have cost us even more, and we would have been a little bit more. So I need to thank Ralph and Army and the team for all of them looking at it and saying, okay, what are some areas of cost savings that we can have that can address that cost factor to bring down. And one other thing is, any of the ESSER funds that Michael is speaking to, it's only going to be on the HVAC system. It's not construction. And so when you see that construction come up and the price does inflate, is because ESSER's not covering some of it. It's just covering the HVAC system. So Ralph, do you want to speak to the grid? Is there anything else that you know of that we've got adjusted or anything?
I was about to ask if Mr. LaRue could potentially kind of address any cost savings measures you identified.
Madam President,
Yes.
prior to Mr. LaRue speaking, let me correct. This is coming, the 215 is from ESSER savings.
Correct,
Okay.
I understand.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Say that again. What did he say?
From ESSER savings.
President, board members, superintendent, I share your concern about numbers. Remember, we have one more big project
Yes.
to come in, by our definitions, one, Fredonia. We're still working on the press box, we haven't forgotten that, but one more big renovation job, and we worry about that number. So I share your concern. We will do everything we can with that project, as we did with Mike Moses. One thing we got into on Mike Moses, whenever you're doing a renovation of this magnitude, like we did at the District Support Center, we just routinely replace all the ceiling tiles. Well, you know, Mike Moses had 4 projects on the bond issue. One of those was the roof. That roof has been leaking for a number of years. Due to that leak, we've replaced most of the ceiling tiles, if not once, some of them twice. So, most of the tiles are in good shape, and that was a big number to back out. So we feel like everything the kids are touching and the teachers are touching is going to be new and shiny and bright and chipper and represent an elementary school. So we're very, very pleased with the project overall.
There you go. I want to preface this by saying I appreciate the work that you and Army have done. I think about the transportation center, and I think about DSC, and I believe you brought both of those in under budget. So I know you guys are very sensitive. Your local community members, you know that being cost effective is extremely important to us. So I preface that by saying that, but then at the same time, you also, Mr. LaRue, know I don't want us to cut corners that is going to haunt us in the future. So are you very comfortable with this plan?
Those decisions were indeed made, and discussions were made with the board and you in particular in mind, that we didn't value engineer anything that would in any way, shape, or form affect the overall project. And I would like to add that MCM, or TCMC, I'm sorry, they also did the Margie Chumley renovation back a number of years ago. So
Okay.
they're a good company to work with. We've had good luck.
Good relationship with them. Wonderful, wonderful.
Mr. LaRue, I have a question. When this is done, the bathrooms will be in proper order for an elementary school kid
They
versus
will
a
be,
middle
but
school
we
kid.
don't do smaller toilets in this district. So, just saying. Get into a bathroom discussion.
They become shoe
Dr.
shining
Hill could
schools.
be part of this bathroom discussion if you want to have a discussion. But everything will be functional for an elementary school, just like the other elementary schools.
They'll be like the others. That's what I wanted to know.
I think particularly for those that may be watching this live streamed, I know we've got a very aggressive construction plan in place for Mike Moses.
Grossly object.
Yeah, so do you have I know that's going to be a stress point, pressure point.
It is indeed.
Until we get much further down the road, but is it realistic? Is it doable? How are you feeling about it, other than it's going to be hard?
It's very tight, very tight. The contractor has agreed to it, so we've all laid our eyes on it and looked at it. But there's so much that has to happen with other members of the team, looking at Dr. Hill. Everything in that building has to be packed up and removed. It's a total, we're going to come in there and paint, and things that are on the wall have to go, every teacher's belonging, and they are really good at bringing stuff into a school. But we need it all to go out, every bit of it. So I'm very concerned. We're going to be in there the day after classes end with the moving company pulling out furniture. And in order for us to turn this over to the contractor so that they can get in and do their job, we have a little bit of that also with Fredonia, but not as much because it's going to run into the fall. But Mike Moses is an aggressive schedule. Army and Cindy are trying to calm me down on that. I'm the nervous
Do we need to
Nelly.
plan some packing parties or something like that over there? Well, I bet everybody here will come pitch in and help if needed.
We're going with a company.
I meant to get the personal effects and stuff
Yeah,
back
the
up,
company, the moving company is going to take the furniture, and we'll take the books, and we'll take anything that's boxed and labeled and has a destination. But there's a pretty big topsy-turvy, we're closing the whole school, we may not know where everybody's going, so all their stuff needs to go home to their garage until they figure out where they're going to land. So there's a lot of personal belongings, fragile things that the movers aren't going to touch.
Right.
We're going to grab the furniture and library and things that need to be boxed.
That's a good point. Most of, and one of the things that I've been pretty, I don't know if it's a blessing, I've moved a number of times when we've had situations like this. We don't get in the business of moving personal property because then you have damages and all of that. But I will tell you this. I saw Ralph and his team's shoulders drop, and he took a big breath when we said we were holding off on Fredonia. Because in reality, what was supposed to happen on the onset was the same time that we were doing the Mike Moses adjustments, in the timeline that Mike Moses would start in August with kids, is that the same thing was going to happen with Fredonia with pre-K. We were going to work during the summer, and school was going to start with pre-K at Fredonia the same time. And now, Ralph could go back to the nightmare years, months that he was thinking, how in the world was that going to happen? So by taking that off and not doing the Fredonia, and we got Nettie that can actually house us.
Right.
It gives us a little more, his team a little more breathing room, but still it's a very aggressive schedule, because Monday, or maybe even that Saturday, when they close school on that Friday, if school ends on Friday, they're in there on Saturday and possibly even Sunday.
Absolutely.
Getting everything ready in order to get it done, so the paint dries by the time the kids get to school in August, so.
Yeah. Well, I've seen you work over those summers. I know how it's already a really busy schedule, and I know adding this renovation to it is going to be a challenge, but it is greatly appreciated, and come August, those kiddos are going to be really happy to walk into that.
Well, I can't
newly
say enough
renovated building.
about the support the administration has given us, and then also the team, Army and Cindy. We've all got our little niches, and we figured out how to do it, and it's working well.
Good job.
Any other comments, questions on this item?
Does the Army have anything to say to us?
He's like, no, if I have to.
He's hiding back there.
All right. Do we feel comfortable enough to move this item to consent agenda, or do we believe there may be additional conversation that is needed Thursday?
I'm comfortable with it.
I'm good.
All right, so we will move that item to consent agenda.
Madam President, does Mr. Army and Mr. Curtis might want to make some comment? At least it can make somebody's blood pressure go down. Maybe it might be Ralph's.
Oh.
You have anything, Ted?
Any additional
Sure.
comments?
Just to reiterate on what Ralph had brought up so far, we are working since the bid and had conversations with the contractor in terms of trying to identify, some ways and means to attack the construction project during that period. So all of the subs that are on this project have walked the site. So everybody is cognizant of the task at hand. And once the approval goes through, contracts will be started, materials will be ordered, all in an attempt to be ready that first day of school, or first day of summer, with things on the ground and things can happen.
Very nice. So materials will be staged and ready to go.
Correct.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to say real quickly that I know we're all concerned about the time crunch. I have every confidence in all of our subs that this will be done. And I have every confidence in our moving company that's going to handle the chaos, that it will get done in a timely manner, and we will have our kids back and ready to go.
Thank you. All right, that will take us to item C, consideration of NISD 2021-2022 COVID-19 mitigation protocols. Dr. Trujillo.
President Finch and Board, always a pleasure to give you an update. I know I've been blowing up my communication to let you know where we are with numbers. So I want to make sure the community knows that each one of our board members stay attuned to those numbers on a daily basis. Also pointing them to the website. We have updated numbers there so that our community can see the full transparency of where we're at. Arriving back from Thanksgiving break and coming into these 3 weeks, this is the week that I was thinking about watching, because when we came back, the full week after the holidays, we basically stayed at 0%, staff 0% with students. Then we got into the second week, we continued with 0% with our staff, and we got one case with a kiddo. Sorry. And then here we are, Monday, going into the holidays. And we're still at 0% with our staff. And we're less than 1% of our kids. When you look at that number, it's 4 students out of 5,900 kids is what we're looking at. I have no idea why my throat decided to tickle me at this point, but I want to give you some other numbers. To date, we've had 137 individuals tested at the makeshift testing site, which is a great place to give our staff and our students an opportunity to go over and not travel into a school to get themselves tested. Total vaccines to date at the elementary, remember we had the initiative, is 319 students that we've immunized with regards to COVID. That's an additional, you had an additional 19 students that are 12 and above that have found their way at this site. Tonight, from 4 to 6, for a community that's out there, we have the second vaccination that will occur at BQJ in Fredonia from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And it's always nice because they also come in and they provide a booster. So an adult or parent that is interested in a booster, you can show up to one of these sites and they'll take care of that as well. And I'm certain that if an individual comes in and they're just receiving their first vaccination, they'll be equipped to provide them with that or point them in the direction to where they can get that met. The middle schools on January 13th, we're looking at the middle schools. We'll start off with Mike Moses at 4 PM to 6 PM. This is for the families that have, their youngest child is a middle school student. So they would not have found their way to an elementary school, but now we can provide an opportunity for their youngest, which is in middle school, to get the vaccine, and that would be on January the 13th for them. And forthcoming will be McMichael as far as the date for what they will be providing for that population. When we get McMichael there, then we would have provided 100% of our campuses has provided an opportunity for vaccinations for the first and the second vaccine, and then we'll continue to provide the testing for our families over at Margie Chumley. So I encourage our families, practice the mitigation steps, practice your safety with regards to your families as you're traveling and as you return back to the community. If you return back to the school district and you feel as if you need to be tested on the return back to the school district, Margie Chumley will be, that morning, we will be there testing, just like we have been on a regular basis. Remember, this testing site is Monday through Friday, beginning at 6 a.m. in the morning. So it allows our parents enough time to really investigate this before they have to go to work and determine what their next steps will be for this. So pretty excited about what we're doing with regard to the mitigation, and we're appreciate our kids and our staff that take every opportunity to practice all the measures that we've put in place. If it weren't for those measures, we would not be celebrating these numbers that we do have. We're excited about this. It's still very real, and we don't want to demean this in any way, because we do know that there are families and individuals out there in the community that are dealing, this is very real in their family. And I want them to know that the school district is making it very real every single day to take and address it at the level of our teachers and our students. With that, President Fitch, I'll entertain any questions.
Dr. Troy, do you have any idea of what the percentage of the staff been vaccinated so far?
Well, let me have Mr. Whitaker. Do you know the number of payout that we had with regards to the vaccine? I know I reported that before. Do you remember that number? It's been a while back.
Good evening, President Fitch. Good evening, President Fitch, board members, and Dr. Trujillo. I don't have the exact number of what the equivalent of what the exact payout was. I know we had set out about 760 some odd employees that were getting that participated in the vaccine, and that number grows with our current number of new hires that we hired, that those individuals are vaccinated. So we continue to have a few payouts with our new hires, but I can have that number for you by this Thursday.
Just curious, the percentage of the staff, the percentage.
I think the percentage we had last reported was about 70 some odd percent.
70 plus?
Yes, sir. So over, I think 75% or somewhere in there, but I can have those numbers for you next time.
Thank you.
We may ask if you'd get that information to Holly, she can disseminate it out, the percentage, a rough percentage. We know it's an estimate.
Yes, ma'am.
Based on that
I sure can.
stipend.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
All right. Any additional questions or comments on this item? All right. Hearing none, we will move to the next item on our agenda, which is an executive closed session to discuss the items posted on our agenda pursuant to the following provisions of the Texas Open Meetings Act and as allowed by Texas Government Code Sections 551.071, 551.074, and 551.129. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place when the board reconvenes in open session. It is now 1:19 p.m. We will not reconvene into open session before, have an estimate?
Depends on the number of questions. I would say 1:30. It's not going to be long.
All right. So we will not reconvene any earlier than 1:30. The board is now reconvening into open session at 2:14 PM. The next item on our agenda is a request for future agenda items. I'll open the floor. All right, hearing none, we will move to item 7, if we have a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Thank you, Mrs. Winslow. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Reverend Irvin. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you all for your time this afternoon, and we will see you Thursday evening.